Breaking today, Loose Women is now involved in a major bullying row involving one of its biggest presenters. This is a new crisis for woke ITV. And it's one that's really interesting, actually, because how does TV deal with the fact that for so many years they have said, oh, we absolutely must listen to every accusation from every staff member about behavior of our presenters, when all of a sudden it's just being used as a weapon to take people off air. Because the most extraordinary thing, this bullying row involves Kaye Adams. Now, Kaye Adams, you'll know, is one of the least aggressive people on that panel. You know, if it was Nadia Sawalha or Charlene White or Judy Love, then maybe I would have some type of sympathy. And these allegations are not actually involving Loose Women, but rather her BBC radio show. And BBC confirmed the news overnight with an article headline, Kaye Adams taken off BBC radio show after conduct complaint. They said it was regarding an internal complaint about her behaviour. And there was more information on this, which revealed, by the way, and this was broken by the Daily Mail under the headline Kaye Bullying Row, that it was because she shouted and screamed at junior colleagues. Now, this woman is paid £150,000 a year for her job, and it is believed the complaints were raised under the BBC's Call It Out scheme to address bad behaviour in the workplace, an initiative set up in the aftermath of the scandal over former MasterChef presenters Greg Wallace and John Turode. BBC Scotland refused to comment on the allegations against the former Strictly contestant Kaye Adams, but confirmed she had not left the organisation permanently. One senior BBC source told the Mail on Sunday Ms Adams is not expected back on air for at least 2 weeks while the investigation continues. But the spokesperson said, for Kaye, said she hadn't even heard about it. Sources confirmed, however, Adams was asked to attend a meeting with the station's new head of audio, Victoria Easton Riley, on October the 8th. The BBC source said the meeting did not go well and Kaye stormed out. She hasn't been back since and she's not been on air. Another senior BBC Scotland source said Kaye has been taken off air. She's gone. There have been complaints about her behaviour and they've removed her while they investigate it. It's been talked about all over Pacific Key. After the Greg Wallace fiasco, they're now getting much tougher on complaints about the talent and are starting to take things seriously. Big news, Outspoken is now available as a podcast too. So please do subscribe wherever you get yours, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and make sure you rate and review. I'll take 5 stars, if you may. Charlie, look, this is really interesting, isn't it? Because, of course, there was always going to be a tipping point. And I think this tipping point has now arrived where the woke mind virus has infected organisations like the BBC, and staff are so prissy and so concerned and so actually unable to deal with life in a newsroom that what they're doing is they're just willy-nilly getting presenters sacked. And at the end of the day, I've known Kaye Adams for years. I've got no idea if she's tough with her staff members or bullying with her staff members. But what I do know, Charlie, is that a newsroom is a pretty tough place to work. I spent 20 years in newsrooms. You've got to deal with breaking news. You've got to be robust. Yes, sometimes the language can be a little bit fruity. Yes, when you're under a high pressure, live on air situation, guess what, Charlie? People might raise their voices. And afterwards, after the show, you might say, oh, look, sorry about that. It was just incredibly stressful when I was on air. The fact that the BBC has just taken Kaye Adams off air for 2 weeks, to me, is looking like an overreaction. What do you think?
Well, I think they're probably just terrified of the next scandal that's going to hit them because the BBC can't seem to avoid hiring weird degenerates, quite frankly. And I'm not saying that Kaye Adams is in that category, but it's no secret that they have a long history of enabling, covering up, and really defending to the hilt people who are very dodgy, quite frankly. And I think that they are wise to that. And I think they're just terrified that when the next one of those is going to come along. So I think they're probably making a show of being tougher on their talent in the hopes that that will restore their reputation in the minds of the public. Now, I don't think that's going to work, because I think in the eyes of the majority of people at this point, the BBC's name is mud. They, I think, are viewed en masse as not serving the public interest, not representing the views of the majority of the people in this country, and like ITV, as we were speaking about before, essentially operating as a mouthpiece of the state, and not in a way that serves the public interest, but which instead serves the interest of the bureaucratic managerial ruling class that governs this country. Now, it is interesting. I have noticed recently, I don't know if you've noticed this, Dan, but wherever I go, I seem to see more and more of these signs. I saw one on the road recently where there were some roadworks happening near where I live. That say, like, please don't hurl abuse at our staff, in so many words.
Yes.
You know, signs basically say, you see them on the trains, you see them in the post office, you see them in the doctors and so on. These signs are everywhere. And so it does seem to indicate that there is an increasing tension, perhaps, between just people in this country. And I don't.
But first, let's be honest, here in Britain, what passes for journalism today is little more than politically charged activism with a headline slapped on top. Truth gets buried under layers of spin, agenda, and algorithm-driven narratives. That's why I turn to Ground News. It cuts straight through the noise and shows you what actually is happening. Ground News brings together headlines from over 50,000 sources across the globe, but what really makes it powerful is the transparency. You don't just see the stories, you see the political bias behind every source, like the ownership ties, the coverage breakdown across the spectrum. It's brilliant. Even the Nobel Peace Centre praised it as an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. And my favourite feature is its blind spot feed, because it shows you which stories are trending on one side of the aisle but barely mentioned on the other. It's the clearest way to see media bias in action. So here's an example of a story barely gaining any traction on the right. In an interview with The Times, Nigel Farage said he will not cut taxes until spending is reduced, abandoning his £90 billion pledge. He's expected to deliver a major speech next month, promising £350 billion in cuts to public services and the civic service. And here's one the left is completely ignoring. You have to see it for yourself. Starmer has emphasised the need for the UK to assist in monitoring the ceasefire as questions remain about the future in Gaza. Seeing every side of the news like this is exactly why Ground News exists, and right now you can get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to all the features I personally use for less than a cup of coffee. Just visit ground.news/outspoken, click the link in the description, or scan the QR code. Over 1 million people have downloaded Ground News and use it to stay informed. Join them and subscribe today at ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
I think that's surprising. Now, I don't know how much of this is as a result of government legislation. It's possible that there's a law that I've missed that means that organizations have to have these signs out. That is possible. But actually, I think it speaks more to an increasing feeling of social breakdown, actually, between people, because this word bullying means basically nothing at this point. It's
100%. It's like racist, isn't it? It's like
it's
far
exactly
right.
It's been totally overused by people who are dishonest and who are using it to get one over on people and to get things that they want, quite frankly, and to actually to wield power that they don't deserve. So it's almost completely lost its meaning. But I've got to say, on the other side of all of this, and maybe I'm just saying this because I've had some bad experiences recently, but there is a hell of a lot of incompetence out there. I have to say that, right? And so, whilst I don't think that we should be hurling abuse at each other, I think that's very un-English. It's very, very rude, very impolite. Actually, in a lot of ways, I can understand why there is this increasing prevalence of these signs and indeed these accusations. But with that being said, I do think that this is probably, on balance, all of it spurious.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, what we don't want, AY audits, is like a woke, wussy society where people are too afraid to demand excellence in their place of work because they're so worried about staff raising spurious complaints. Now, actually, I even had a bit of an issue, AY audits, with what happened with Greg Wallace and John Turode. It seemed to me the main reason that those two were sacked was because they were white, middle-aged, straight men, which the BBC seemed to have a real problem with. But it certainly seems strange, AY audits, doesn't it, for a woman like Kaye Adams, who has had quite a faultless career, certainly never been an issue behind the scenes on Loose Women, where, trust me, there are loads of divas there who cause lots of issues. She's not one of them. And all of a sudden, the BBC boot her off over bullying claims.
I think the thing, I don't know her personally, Dan, and you probably know her, obviously know her a lot better than what I do, but maybe...
never came across as a bully to me, genuinely. And there were a lot of bullies on that show. AY Audit. There were genuinely a lot of nasty women on that show. Sometimes I think they shouldn't call it Loose Women, they should call it Nasty Women. But she wasn't one of them, no.
I was going to say as well, like you could tell from that show, there's a lot of characters on there.
That's the
like big personalities as well.
Yeah.
But again, she could have just gone over to the BBC, Dan, and then maybe not conforming to the rules as to what they would like her to conform to. And maybe this is just a start where they try to maybe push her out, you know, like you just never know.
Absolutely. I think that is what they were trying to do. I really do. I think that she doesn't fit the mold of what they want. And so the staff members now realize through these campaigns, you know, a campaign like Call It Out, they now have the power. And that's quite a terrifying thing, actually, because what you really want in society is to have, yes, robust policies that protect people against sexual predators like Jimmy Savile and Hugh Edwards, who, can we just remind everyone, were let loose to roam around the BBC for decades doing what the hell they wanted, rather than punishing someone like Kaye Adams, who is a robust journalist, who probably has some woke staff members who can't cope with a raised voice every now and then in a live broadcast environment. And that, to me, is a case not of something that should ruin her career, but a case of if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.